ThatGuyKravos, Boii, Nacho Grande, Carthage, round of 16. Looking at army compositions, it looks like ThatGuyKravos has brought a pretty standard Boii rush build. It has the 4 heavy horse, the 2 or 3 cheap spirit units, and the 5 sword followers. One thing that I did find pretty interesting about his build is he actually brought 3 Oathsworn, which you don't see too often, especially considering how cost-effective sword followers are. I think bringing 3 might be a little bit on the expensive side, but it's an interesting decision. It means that if he gets into melee combat and his opponent doesn't get a lot of really good hammer and anvils off, he's probably going to be in really good shape because Oathsworn are going to be able to cut through a lot of these Carthaginian units. Now, if we look at Carthage's setup, I think there's one thing that's very clear about his composition, and it's going to be completely reliant on the elephants for killing power and the mercenary companion cavalry for killing power. He has a main line of late Carthaginian hoplites and some mercenary Samnites and Gallic warriors out on the flanks, and some cavalry as well. But I think killing all of these Boii swords is going to be very difficult without very effective use of the mercenary companion cavalry and the elephants. Now, the thing about mercenary companion cavalry is that on patch 14, patch 13, they were infantry killers. They were the Katana Cav of Shogun 2. They ripped through enemy infantry. And they can still do that to an extent now, but they don't do it as well as they used to because they don't have a bonus versus infantry. So if he can get some good hammer and anvils and leave them in melee combat with Oathsworn or the sword followers, he can do a ton of damage, but he's going to need to make sure that his hoplites engage first, tie down the sword units, and then come in from the rear. If he doesn't do that and he doesn't get his elephants into a really good position, I think he does have the disadvantage in this battle, because as we've seen so far in this tournament, the sword rush builds have really been very powerful. Now, out on the flanks, I think a lot of where this battle is going to be decided. If he can get his cavalry around the flank, quickly take out some of these heavy horse, and get around behind the Boii swords, he has a great shot of winning this battle, but it's going to kind of be dependent on who wins this cavalry engagement. So far, it looks like the Carthaginian Cavs have engaged some of the heavy horse, the Gallic warriors have engaged the spear warriors, and the mercenary companion Cav got into the sword followers, but didn't do very much damage off that charge, actually. They don't really have a good charge bonus, so they're just going to hit it and kind of run away afterwards. And they're not really going to make a huge impact there. So this is actually not really an engagement the Gallic warriors want to take against some sword followers. They're going to kind of get beat up there. The main hoplite line is engaging, and then over on this flank, some of the Gallic warriors and Samnites and the cavalry is fighting on this flank as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now, and the war elephants have actually already engaged into these sword followers. And this is a really good move from El Nacho Grande, because against sword followers, they're just going to run train. There's nothing these guys can do to stop them. They haven't run amok. He can still control his elephants completely perfectly, and they're going to run through this formation and do a lot of damage. Over on the right, it looks like some of the spear warriors have routed. This cavalry fight is going to go in Boii's favor, of course. ThatGuyKravos did a good job engaging 2 cavalry to 1 Carthaginian cav, so that should be an easy fight for them. Gallic warriors will lose over here to the sword followers, and in the center here in the forest, it looks like some of the sword followers are going to engage late Carthaginian hoplites. Where I really want to focus on right now, though, is over on the left flank. Elephants are trying to turn the tide of battle in the Carthaginian favor. It looks like some of this cavalry is getting really beaten up. The elephants have already up to 105 kills, so that's very good. I don't think they're going to be able to completely rout this whole flank, though, because while they're decent versus cavalry and they'll kill cavalry, they don't kill them anywhere near as quickly as getting like a full charge off into infantry. So he's actually going to pull them out and go back into the sword followers to help his mercenary Samnite warriors win that fight. I think that's a very good move from him. And yeah, he's just going to roll up that flank. Should be able to rout those swords very easily. Over on this side, the heavy horse won their battle pretty convincingly, and they should be able to get a charge into the Libyan Peltas. But out here, this is one of the units that I think is going to be really important for this battle. Mercenary Companion Cav have not made their presence felt on this battle at all. They actually charge into sword followers. I would actually cycle charge a couple times into them, because an exposed unit like this I think is a very good target for them. Instead, they're actually going to charge into the forest, where their charge bonus isn't quite as good, but they're going to try to get a hammer and anvil off. Unfortunately, and this was a very good move from ThatGuyKravos, he's going to pull out of the engagement he had with the hoplites, and because hoplites and phalanx can't chase really, he's going to kind of prevent the companion cavalry from getting a cycle charge, and that's going to actually make them not do a whole lot of damage here. And the Oathsworn have activated Headhunt, and they should actually be able to do a lot of damage. Mercenary companion cav are getting destroyed right now, which I'm really kind of surprised about, but they didn't get a good charge off in the woods, and they're pretty much already off the field. Elephants are up to 250 kills now. They made a big impact on this battle, routing that sword follower and parts of that flank. And they're now going to engage the Oathsworn with some backup from the late Carthaginian hoplites. I think they might be getting a little bit overzealous. I mean, they're into sword units, which is great, but he didn't really get a great charge bonus off. So if I was him, when I started seeing some of these units start to rout, I think he should probably pull back and then get another charge off because their charge is so devastating. But the Oathsworn, with their headhunt activated, doing a lot of damage. Even to these elephants now have taken a lot of HP damage over the course of this battle, and they're actually starting to rout a little bit. They've gotten a ton of kills. They've made a big impact on the battle, which I said would be very important, but they are probably going to end up or start dying to these Oathsworn, which is going to be a problem. If he loses the elephants here, he's going to be not in great shape, to be honest. The hoplites are simply not going to be able to cut through these Oathsworn, and these hoplites are actually not engaged at all. But a lot of these units, like, the good thing about hoplites is they're a great anvil for an elephant charge from behind, but if there's nothing to hammer with, there's no cavalry or elephants to hit the back of the Oathsworn, Carthage is simply not going to be able to take this melee engagement and win. And the heavy horse is making their presence felt in the back here. Really good volley from the Libyan Peltas. I like what El Nacho Grande is doing here. He's kind of keeping his Peltas separate, and again, the Peltas have a bonus versus cavalry, so doing a lot of damage to this cavalry at the moment. And it actually looks like some of these cavalry from the Boii came back from routing, and they're going to get engaged by these Samnite warriors. But he should be able to pull out of that engagement if he notices it in time. It looks really even at the moment. The problem is that I think Carthage has lost a lot of his tools. He doesn't have the cavalry, the mercenary companion cav, or the elephants now to get the hammer and anvils off, so the balance bar is starting to even out now, and I think it's starting to go in Boii's favor. Doesn't mean this battle is over yet, but the Libyan Peltas are getting engaged in melee with the Oathsworn. They're not really going to have any chance of winning that fight, obviously. And they're basically just going to get cut up right now. And the main line seems to be doing alright. In fact, he's gotten a really good kind of circle engagement off, surround off on these Oathsworn, but not a lot of killing power here. The hoplites just don't have very high attack damage. They're more of a defensive unit. And the General's Bodyguard is not really meant as a true cavalry unit. Yeah, they can do some damage, but they're not going to rout an Oathsworn with charges from the flank, so this is starting to shift. This is starting to shift very much in Boii's favor, it looks like. He broke through the center here with the Oathsworn, who are up to 3 chevrons now. Done a lot of killing. General's engaged, and only down to 5 men. And it looks like these Oathsworn are going to be able to flank and get into the rear of this formation right here. And when that occurs, I think Carthage is going to lose a lot of the hope he had to win this battle. So yeah, Oathsworn are going to engage from the rear. Pretty much every tool that Carthage had on the field is now gone. And yeah, this is not a melee engagement that Carthage can win at this point. He does have a mercenary Samnite warrior coming from over on the other side of the battlefield, but I don't think that these hoplites are going to be able to do enough to these Oathsworn. And yep, even more swords coming in from the rear. So this unit's going to rout in a couple seconds here. And they're just going to get cut to pieces. So 1 unit left on the field now for Carthage, and it's going to be the mercenary Samnite warriors. Yeah, like I said, I think that the elephants were kind of the key for that battle, and they did a lot of damage there. 350 kills, that's very good, very cost-effective. And Boii really didn't have too many answers for it. He didn't have any dedicated javelins. That doesn't necessarily matter on this patch because all swords and spears can throw their own jabs, and even 1 volley can sometimes cause an elephant to start panicking, but that didn't really happen. They made a big impact. The mercenary companion cav, on the other hand, did not, though. And I think that was definitely an issue for him. He didn't get any really good hammer and anvils off with them. They kind of just died to the headhunt Oathsworn, which was kind of surprising, but it was also in the woods, and they had headhunt activated, so maybe not as surprising. But looks like Samnite warriors are going to engage in melee here with the Oathsworn. Not an engagement they can win. They can do some damage, but this battle is over for Carthage, unfortunately. So it's interesting. I think that Carthage actually matches up pretty well versus barbarian rushes. They have the tools to deal with it, namely the elephants. Those are the biggest deal. If you can utilize them effectively, you'll often just simply win. But I think one problem in that battle was that El Nacho didn't actually get hammer and anvils off with them on the main line, and I think that's where it was most important to do so. He helped win the flank with the elephants, which was great. But once they did that, I think they needed to circle all the way around and kind of collapse into the rear of the Oathsworn. And instead, I think he kind of went in from the flank, which isn't a bad thing, but they were in the woods, and there were a lot of other swords to back it up. So I think maybe a couple more swords and less hoplites. I'm really just not a big fan of hoplites against barbarian rushes. Rush 4 ins, hoplite build didn't work against the Boii rush earlier in the tournament, and they simply just don't do enough killing. 39 kills, 36 kills, 27 kills, 19 kills. Yes, they're a good anvil. They can stand and fight for a while, but they're not doing enough killing. So I think mercenary samurai warriors, 4, 5, 6 of them maybe, would have really been efficient here and effective, because they're going to last just as long as the late Carthaginian hoplites in melee because of their high armor, but they're actually going to do some killing as well. It turned out that the build from ThatGuyKravos was actually very good. The extra Oathsworn really helped him with that killing power. I'm not sure that it's the most efficient build or the best use of your money, because something like an elephant can absolutely trash an Oathsworn, and then you've kind of thrown away some of your talents there. Sword followers, a couple more of those, or a couple more Celtic warriors to flank around. Just get a bigger army in general might have been better, but I can't argue with the results here. He played very well. Good use of his cavalry on the flanks, and ended up pulling that battle out. Again, elephants did make a big impact. I'm just not sure that they engaged at... No, let me rephrase that. His use of elephants was perfect in that battle. It was great. I think his main line was the problem. The hoplite just did not do enough, and the mercenary companion cav, which is 1,200 talents, 19 kills, really poor use of funds. And I don't think that he necessarily used them really poorly, although I think there was that sword follower in the back that he could have killed very easily with a companion cav. And instead of leaving them in melee, he kind of just pulled out and went for the main line in the forest. But that decision hurt him, because they charged into the back of the main line in the woods, and the charge bonus wasn't there, and the Oathsworn were ready for it. So 19 kills on a 1,200 talent unit, not worth it at all. But overall, I just think that a couple more mercenary samurai warriors or Libyan infantry as the main line would have done him much better than the late Carthaginian hoplites. But I think he played well. Besides the macro, the army composition, which I think could have been tweaked a little bit in his favor, I think he played well. His use of elephants was great. And I like the Libyan Peltas. I think he did a pretty decent job with them, killing the cavalry on the flanks. But in general, I think this Boii rush is not the easiest composition to deal with, that's for sure. Very, very potent, 3 Oathsworn, tons of killing power, especially in the woods. You're not going to get the hammer and anvils you necessarily want to, just because the charge bonus doesn't go through the woods as well. I think that we need to start seeing some Armenia and Parthia against these sword rush builds. Again, Carthage has the tools to deal with it, but I think that if we're going to start seeing these Boii builds and these Roman builds fall, these sword rush builds, we're going to start needing to see some cataphracts, which I haven't seen yet. So we'll see if people start catching on to that, or if they even think that's a viable solution to dealing with sword spams. But overall, good battle to both players. ThatGuyKravos, you will be moving on. Well played, sir. El Nacho, I think you played well also, but unfortunately you are now out of the tournament. So good game to both players. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you all later. And you pride.